Anybody else?
What projects are you working on currently?
Currently, if you know any 6-year-olds, there's a series on Boomerang called My Spy Family that's kind of about a family of spies who are retired, live in Bali. And it's kind of done in the style of the show I used to work called My Parents Are Aliens. And it's the first show I've ever created. And it just wrapped on Friday, which is why I couldn't be here until today. And there was a wrap party and everything. And it's so the Cartoon Network commissioned it. And it's the first live action show Cartoon Network have ever commissioned. And it turned out pretty well. So if you have an infantile sense of humour and tune in and have a look, and it's got lots of effects in it. So lots of low budget effects. So Red Dwarf fans should be right at home watching it. And the other thing I'm working on at the moment is an English version of Bewitched, the old 60s sitcom that Sony are hoping to sell to the BBC, and we're hopefully making a pilot in January. Those are the two things I'm working on. So we'll see about that. I'm not sure whether the world is ready for an English Bewitched, but we shall see. It's part of the BBC's whole thing of they'll only make things that are existing properties like Robin Hood or Doctor Who, and they're being. I think they're being a bit cautious. I don't know, new ideas. Yeah. Well, yeah, because they were.
They refused Red Dwarf for a time.
I know, and to say that, I could not believe it. I mean, that's just an incredible thing to say, let alone put in a memo. I mean, it's just amazing. I can't believe it. I mean, but it kind of fits in with what I've heard and what the experiences I've had trying to get new ideas off the ground with people. It's bloody difficult. It really, unless you're Ricky Gervais or something like that, but it's difficult. Anybody else?
How did you get started as a comedy writer?
How does one get started, or how did I get started?
How did you get started?
It was a really weird route. I wanted to be a comic strip artist. I wanted to draw Spider-Man, Batman, especially Spider-Man. And when I was at university, I was editor of the college magazine, and I published my own graphic novels, as we called them back in the 80s. And it did it on the printing presses, and I sent it to the president of the Society of Strip Illustrators, a chap called David Lloyd, who created V for Vendetta with Alan Moore, for you comic fans out there. And he wrote back and he said, well, your drawing's crap, but your writing's quite good. So I thought, writing, that's the thing to do. So I immediately switched to writing, and I started out as a comic strip writer for, I used to do a thing called Starblazer Digest for DC Thompson in Dundee. It was kind of like action, adventure, science fiction kind of comic, different story every week. And that was how I started. And then there used to be really old people here, a magazine called Warrior, which is where Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons and some really famous comic people got their stuff. And I got a strip in that. But literally, the week before it was due to appear, the magazine folded because no one bought it and it cost a huge amount to produce. And so I was so depressed, I thought, I don't want to stay in comics anymore, I'm going to go to television instead. And I started off, and the first thing I ever wrote was a 1-hour play for BBC One that they picked up because it was a real fluke. They had a studio free, a production fallen out of the studio in December, and they had a studio free in December and nothing to go in it. And so they said, oh yeah, your play will do it. And so they bunged my play. And then I thought I was a playwright, and I spent ages writing another play. And I thought I was a serious player with statements to make about society and stuff like that. And it was just terrible, the thing I wrote. And they sent it back. So then I thought, if I'm going to be a writer, I can't spend 6 months writing plays and then having them be rejected. So I thought I need to write something where I can get a quick response. So I thought jokes and sketches. They don't take as long to write. So I started writing jokes and sketches, and I started writing for Jasper Carrot, basically. And that was kind of my entree into the world of television. And I've written for loads of. When you're a journalism writer, you do everything. I've done Dave Allen, Jasper Carrot, Phil Cool, Les Dennis last to show. I was a script editor for a couple of years, but strangely that's fallen off the bottom of my CV, so you won't see that anymore. But you kind of do a bit of everything, and but the joy is getting into the long form stuff and doing stuff with stories, because that's the fun of writing. I think it's telling stories rather than making up jokes. It's telling stories, and that's what Red Dwarf does. Well, I mean, it's got great characters, but the stories are really, really fab and really compelling, and it's nice to work on a show. And I've tried to do that subsequently in my career, which is why I do things like Bewitched and my parents are aliens and stuff, is do something in the fantasy sphere, and you can use all of your imagination. Whereas if you're writing just a soap opera or an episode of a standard sitcom, you're not using your whole imagination. So it's not as sort of interesting. So that's how I got my start, and I don't know how one does get started now. It's much more difficult now than when I got my mentor or anything. I think to start off. Andrew's nodding. Yes, Andrew knows. Andrew's worked on Doctors, haven't you? Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really tough now. But I mean, I wouldn't discourage anyone. I mean, it's a good idea will still eventually find an outlet. But it's hard work, I think.
How do you go about writing a script?
How do I go about writing a script? Well, I get drunk and then do you mean what is that?
So like how you start it.
Well, it's quite boring. What I normally do is do you mean if it's on another person's show, if it's on if it's a spec script that I'm creating, or? If you're working on an existing show, you normally meet with the creator or the producer or whoever's running the show, and you go through lots and lots of different ideas. Then you pick an idea that you like, that you want to write, that they like, and they think they haven't done before. And then what happens now? There's a hell of a lot of development involved in television. It never used to be there. And so what you do is you go away and you do this thing called a step outline, which is like each scene without the dialogue. And they want to see every single scene and what happens in that scene. They don't trust you at all. If you're a writer in television, you are not trusted. You cannot be trusted to do anything. So you do the step outline, you turn that into them, and then they invite you for another meeting. There are lots and lots of notes about that, and you change that, and you go through dozens of these things. I mean, really. And then finally you get one that they like, and then they allow you to put dialogue into it, which is a fun bit, which is what all writers like to write. They like to write their witty stuff in dialogue. That's why you become a writer in the first place. And so you do that, and then you put that in, and you get lots more notes back. But there's a hell of a lot which there didn't used to be. It used to be like you say, I want to write this idea, and they say, great, go away and write it, and you go and you come back with a script, and then you kind of tinker around with that. But now there are lots and lots of these. They want to see every single stage because in television there are all these layers of people now in development. I don't ask me why. I just do not know. But Andrew again will have encountered this, and they or what it is because their main job is to give you notes. They give you notes, and it's like for the sake of giving you notes. It's not even like they're necessarily making it better. It's like this is my big bugbear. And I once worked on a show where they insisted on a step outline. And I gave it to the producer, and they said, great, and let me go away and write it. And I went away and I wrote it, and I sent in the script. And the producer said, yeah, he said, it's good, but there are no surprises in it. And I said, what do you mean there are no surprises in it? It's just, you've had every single scene. Of course there are no surprises in it. You've read every single scene. So you can't win either way. I mean, either way. But I don't want to make it sound too depressing. I hate being a writer because I get to do Starbucks all day and just in a corner drinking coffee and fiddling around with computers. I mean, it is fun. But everything that's around it is strange now compared to when it started. And I mean, when you hear the thing about BBC Two saying that they don't want the original audience anymore, you think, what has gone wrong with telly and stuff? But I'm one of the less bitter writers that I know. So there are a lot more people around that will see much worse stories than me. Because that's kind of how it. But at the end of the day, it's a really fun way to make a living. I mean, writing is a really fun way to make a living. It's great to express it yourself, and so I wouldn't want to put anyone off becoming a writer. It is a fun thing to do. It's just some of the idiots you have to deal with. You kind of have to bite your tongue for them.